Hello everybody, in this video we are going to continue our conversation about quadratic factors and their zeros. So in the previous video we talked about what quadratic factors were. It's basically rewriting a function into an equivalent multiplication problem. So in the case for quadratic functions, two linear functions will need to be multiplied to create a quadratic. So we need to make sure that when we get done doing all of the work for factoring, that we have the correct answer. So there's actually a way for you to use your calculator, or you can use the same method on Desmos if you want to. If you don't have the same calculator I do, but you can use this on Desmos as well to check to make sure you have the correct answer after doing all of that work. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you to, if you're using your calculator, to go ahead and grab your calculator, and the first thing we're going to do is add the original function, and then we're going to see if the two sets of parentheses that we got when we did all of the work is going to give us the exact same thing. So I'm going to hit 1 and then 2, and then where it says F1 I'm going to type in the original function. So I'm going to type in 5x squared minus 13x minus 6. Now when I hit enter, you're going to notice that my graph shows up on the screen. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out is we have to pick a point of reference. What are we going to look at when we're comparing two graphs? So the first thing I'm going to point out is the x-intercepts, because they're easy to see, where this line crosses the x-axis and where this line crosses the x-axis. Now, if I'm going to check to see if both of my factors are correct, then I'm going to go to F2. How do I access F2? Hit the tab button right here at the top, right here, tab. And you're going to get to F2, and I'm going to ask you to write both of these in parentheses next to each other. Now, if I haven't mentioned this before, it does not matter which one goes first, but I am using x minus 3. Then I'm going to do 5x plus 2. And notice that when I hit enter, it is going to graph the second function on the same coordinate plane. Now, hopefully, you notice that what we typed in for F2, which is the red function, is sitting directly on top of the blue graph, which lets me know they have the same x-intercepts, they follow the same graph, the same lines. These two functions are the exact same thing, and that is what you want to see. This lets you know that we're talking about the same graph written two different ways. So as long as you can say these two are the exact same graph, then you have factored correctly. Now sometimes they're going to ask us to identify just one of the factors. How do we use our calculator to determine if just one factor is correct? Let me show you what you can do. I'm going to ask you to hit that tab button one more time. And we're just going to type in just one of the parentheses. So I'm going to do the first one, which is x minus 3. Okay? Don't confuse it with x negative 3. Don't use the negative here because it will multiply. We're not trying to multiply, we're trying to subtract. Now, I'm just typing in one of the factors. And I do want to remind you that this is going to tell us what one of the x-intercepts is. So, naturally, it should cross in the same place for one of these x-intercepts. So I'm going to hit enter. And you're going to notice, if you look at your graph, look at it closely, notice that this black line, which is the individual factor x minus 3, goes through the exact same place on the x-axis as my parabola. So that lets me know that just this factor is correct because they intersect on the same place on the x-axis. So that means that if I were to type this one in individually, that it should cross in the same place as the other x-intercept. So I'm going to hit tab again. I'm going to type in F4, and I'm just going to do 5x plus 2. 5x plus 2. And when I hit enter, notice that this is the line that represents the second factor, the second parentheses. It's a linear function because the highest exponent is a 1. Once you have something with the highest exponent as a 2, that's what creates the curve, the exponent 2. So for this one, notice that it does cross in the exact same place as the x-axis. So that lets me know that just this factor alone is correct. So there are various ways to use your calculator to check your work. So let's talk a little bit about Desmos. And the reason I'm talking about Desmos is because when you get ready to take your Algebra I STAAR test, Desmos is something that you are allowed to use. So if you feel a little overwhelmed about using your calculator, or maybe your calculator isn't user-friendly, let me show you how you can do this on Desmos, because Desmos is very user-friendly, especially when it comes to graphs. Alright, so here is Desmos, and notice that I just typed in Desmos in my search engine, and I went to Desmos calculator in a previous video. Remember what we're looking at. We're looking at our x-intercepts right here. So if you're trying to see if something is correct, just hit this little plus right here. This is the original function. And so if I add an expression, I can type in those two parentheses. All right, so you didn't actually see me type it in, but remember, our original function was red. So I'm going to turn that off. And so I'm going to turn it back on, and you're going to be able to see that this purple graph is sitting directly on top of the red graph. It is a perfect trace of the red graph, and it hits the same x-intercepts. So that lets me know that this right here is correct. Now, if they're only going to ask us about 1, and they say, is x minus 3 a factor, then there's a way for you to check that as well. So if I add a little plus sign right here, add another expression, and if I type in just one of these, x minus 3, I want you to zoom in and notice that x minus 3 is the black line, and it touches right there on the x-axis at positive 3. So if it intersects the x-axis in the same place, then it obviously is the same, one of the factors. And then if I do the same thing with 5x plus 2. Now remember, we just got finished doing this on the calculator. And here you go. I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off. And then notice that if I zoom in right here, that's what I love about Desmos, is you don't have to fool with the window. You can zoom into wherever you want. And notice that it does intersect the x-axis as much as you want. And I think it's easier to do it, just zoom in and out and kind of manipulate the graph. It's so much easier to do on Desmos. So I highly recommend that you play around with Desmos and get familiar with it, because Desmos is also going to be a great tool for you to use, especially when your calculator isn't as graph manipulative friendly as Desmos. Okay, and that is it. That's me showing you how to use either Desmos or your calculator to check your answers. All right, I hope that these explanations and these different forms of technology has helped you understand this a little bit better. I'll see you guys in the next videos.